in the historical management of the country, and also the corruption that really the system was a cryonic system, of course, and after the revolution the state became less strong at the end, so corruption now expanded, in fact, in the country. So we put 5 priorities in our vision for the future in this government. The first one is really the problem of the governance, and especially the corruption, in fact, how we'll dismantle that in terms of simplifying the laws, simplifying the processes, being the most transparent possible, going to the decentralization, bringing more management of the public affairs close to the people, in fact. So that's one of the axes for the 5 coming years. The second one concerning the economy especially is the fact that Tunisia, in its environment today, is considered a low-cost economy. So people, come invest in Tunisia because you can produce at a lower cost, of course, which is not bad, but at the same time, it's not the only thing that we have. In fact, we have really now well-skilled people. The education system, since the independence, Tunisia invested a lot in the education system, and we have several sectors now where we are bringing more value, especially in the automotive industry, in the pharmaceuticals, in the aerospace industry, in several services, especially the ICT and the technology, etc. So our target now as, of course, the government is really to incentivize and encourage the value added, and especially positioning Tunisia as a hub in the region, especially in the vertical between Europe and Africa, but also between North Africa and the Middle East. So the idea now, we are seeing more and more companies coming to Tunisia and investing in Tunisia, not looking to a small market of 11 million people, but really looking to Tunisia as a base for a larger market. People that are anticipating what would happen in Libya. Libya is in a chaotic situation today, but you need to rebuild Libya. So they are taking some risk by coming maybe a bit in advance, and also seeing what's happening in Algeria and using Tunisia as a hub. On the human development, of course, globally as well as a priority, we are reinvesting, as we were doing before, on the education system, because really we had a period of time where the employability in our educational system was not good at all, and now linking the education at primary, secondary school with the professional training and the university, the link with the business world for that, we are now reforming in that area. We are also reforming the healthcare services, because we are now in Tunisia, even if we are behind Europe, where the median age, the aging is a problem now starting in Europe, and the median age is 42, in Tunisia it's 30. So we are starting to have kind of problem about the pension system, etc., etc. On the fourth priority is really this problem of the regional disparities. The public investment went a lot to the regions, but more for social services, like bringing water to other families, bringing power to other families, having the healthcare services to all the people in those regions. But the private sector didn't follow, because we haven't connected enough these regions to the coast. Many of the richest people are living in the coast, but also the ports are in the coast, and any private investor will need, if he wants to produce in those regions, to import or export, so we need to connect them. And the last and not the least, of course, is the green economy topic, because we are lacking water in Tunisia. We don't have enough water. We are not managing at all very well this important resource. So we have a lot of program now to improve our management of this resource. We are going to desalination on the coast especially, and also improving our productivity in agriculture, especially in the north and the northwest of the region. In terms of power, we are net importer of gas and oil in Tunisia, so we are producing power with gas, and we are not producing enough in terms of renewables. We are just at 3% today, and so we set a target of going to 12% by 2020, so we'll have a lot of opportunities, economically speaking, on investing in the renewable energy. We put a law for that, and especially to encourage the private sector to go in that area. So globally speaking, waste management as well, we are in the biomass energy, we are a bit behind our competitors. Globally speaking, these 5 areas: governance, corruption, hub economy, education system reform and healthcare reform, disparities between regions, and green economy. These are our priorities for the 5 coming years.
Yeah, I think that, especially the emphasis on as a hub economy, is one that could work out quite well. I mean, this is something that Morocco has done and attracted quite a bit of, especially now that prices for labor in Eastern Europe, places that where manufacturing was taking place in the past, a lot of that could migrate to Northern Africa because labor prices have become so expensive now in Southeastern Europe, so it's not beyond the realm of possibility by any means. The other challenge that's embedded, I think, in some of these priorities is one that you mentioned briefly, which is this idea that the education system in Tunisia is quite strong, it's quite good, but unfortunately there are also high levels of unemployment for educated populations. So people come out with a fantastic education and then their job prospects are low. And this relates to, I think, another set of challenges, and so I'd like to segue the conversation a little bit to talk about some of those challenges for the Tunisian economy. And top on that list is this issue of terrorism. So a disaffected youth bulge, people who come out with a fantastic education, potentially, and then don't have a whole lot of opportunities, might be drawn to the likes of the Islamic State or other radical organizations. We know that Tunisia, unfortunately, has been the site of 2 recent terrorist attacks that have had the capacity to potentially decimate the tourism industry. Again, this is not unique to Tunisia, but it's something that's happened to Egypt and elsewhere. How do you think that the government is trying to work to, generate economic development, but also to mitigate some of these potential threats?
Yeah, in the short term, of course, and longer term, we need really to have an economy that will come back to growth and create jobs and bring back hope in the future to the youth, of course, because one of the reasons, of course, these young people are desperate and they are not seeing a future, and of course, any extremist group could present and convince for a better future, in fact, and that's the starting point in the long term. In the short term, when you assess the situation, in fact, one of the most important impact, even if we try, and we are, of course, doing all what is needed to detect what's happening within the country, the situation in Libya is impacting a lot, Tunisia, in fact. Libya is really in a very difficult, has been for more than a year and a half now, in a very difficult situation. And of course, for example, what happened in Bardo and Sousse, these groups were trained in Libya, in fact. And we have 500 kilometers borders with Libya, with the ability, we have an agreement, of course, we don't have a problem having around 100,000 of Libyans living in Tunisia today, but the risk is that our young people going there, being educated there, being trained even there, etc., with some extremist groups. So the short-term decision was to really protect our border. Protect our border. We are now, I guess it's finished in terms of, we are not building a wall, but building a whole, in fact, of more than 180 kilometers where we have population, in fact, on both sides. We are also putting in place electronic control, etc. And we are hoping and trying to help, if we can, of course, that situation in Libya will improve. On the Algerian side, it's easier today because, of course, we have a state in front of us, and we are really working together on how to manage these terrorist groups that we could have in the mountains, especially coming from Algeria or Tunisia, depending on the side. So the situation, the global, what's happening in the region globally, what's happening with Daesh, etc., is impacting, of course, Tunisia. We have a risk. It's very easy to recruit and to have people that could be recruited through the networks, etc. Today, the idea is really, if we want to dismantle, it's a global work in the mosque, work in the schools, work in terms of culture, etc. It won't pay in the short term, but we need also to protect ourselves from the borders to avoid that these people move and could bring weapons. In fact, in the last 3 or 4 months, we've been able to stop trucks and what we build in the border with Libya. Plenty of weapons, in fact, coming from there. So the situation is really dramatic in Libya, and it's impacting us. That's why we are working with the international community, of course, because we won't be able to manage it alone, especially, of course, countries from the regions, Algeria, Egypt, etc., but also Europe is now following, and the US are following closely the situation in Libya and how we can really find a political solution, but also dismantle all these groups that are managing, that are manipulating weapons in Libya, which is not easy at all. It will take a lot of time. So we are exposed for sure. But we are making progress, and to make all the international community comfortable with that, we set with the G7 countries a group of course, people, of experts coming from the G7 countries plus three other countries that are were sending a lot of tourists, in fact, to Tunisia to see on a regular basis the progress that our security forces are making in that area, and to evaluate that, because at the end there is a travel recommendation, of course, in those countries that is very important for us. Tourism represents a large industry in Tunisia. It went down 35% this year, with a very, very, very high impact on our economy. That's why our growth, predicting in the beginning at 3%, went down to 0.5%. It's impacting transport, it's impacting hotels, of course, restaurants, etc. So it's so important for the future of the country, and so important as, of course, an economical activity, that we are really making it completely open and transparent. And we are having now these countries seeing how Tunisia is progressing in that area. So we hope that we were able to convince for the next season. In the meantime, we had a lot of Algerians coming in the country, more than 1.2 million coming as tourists in Tunisia, and we hope really to improve our services on the border also to be even more attractive for Algerian. Libya as well, we opened back the air. In fact, for Libya, we have now a 7th flight today, and Libya is impacting a lot also. We'll have a lot of exchange with Libya.
Excellent. Yeah, I think that, you know, when you've got a geostrategic position which is so sensitive, the best thing you can do is to engage with international actors with shared values.
Exactly. And manage the risk at the same time.
And manage the risk at the same time. So, but thinking about the wider region, there is a lot of contrast between what's happened in Tunisia and what's happened elsewhere. So, and kind of bringing this back to the idea of the transition, what's happened in Tunisia as opposed to, say, what's happened in Egypt. And Tunisia being the success story in the eyes of most and many, and Egypt not being able to make the same degree of transition in terms of democracy and development. Do you have any insights into why that might be the case? So what was it about Tunisia that enabled Tunisia to do this, whereas other countries post-Arab uprisings have faltered?
I would be, first of all, more humble about saying it's a success story. It's not done. Yeah. It's not done. I mean, if we take into account what happened globally, I'm not a specialist, of course, of what's happening in Egypt, but I'm following that. The situation was different because the Islamist party in Tunisia tried to be the more open possible, and they tried to combine with 2 other parties in the beginning, etc. And when the pressure became very strong from the civil society and the opposition and even the international community, they were sufficiently, I would say, conscientious and constructive to pull back, in fact, which was an important move, in fact, in 2013. Otherwise, we could have been in the other way. But at the same time, it happened after what happened in Egypt. Yeah. So we cannot say that it didn't impact. Certainly, in their decision-making process, they took in account what happened in Egypt, and trying to avoid that we come back to the same maybe situation at the end. And the other side, the secular and the modernist parties also now, after the election, tried, and I was one of the leaders with in our party, in fact, that were encouraging that we need to open, of course. We need the most consensual government possible, because the country needs reforms. We've been able to have a dialogue. We've been able to have a consensus on the constitution. We won the election, but not with a big difference. So it's a very strong organization today. It's a part of our population. So maybe we can give a chance that there is a good evolution in the good direction. And I guess they played the game, we played the game, and we are trying now to make progress. internally at least, but we are also dependent on what's happening internationally because of course, the situation, especially in terms of security that we were talking about, could impact negatively, of course, what's happening in Tunisia, stability also of the political parties, and especially the first one, etc., could impact positively or negatively depending on how it evolves, what's happening in Tunisia. So it's still fragile. And also I'm in a ministry where we are leading the process in terms of reforms. It's not easy because having, of course, a kind of partnership of parties that were opposed completely, making progress and having a commitment on reforms in the parliament is not always easy because there is a lot of political challenges that will be around what's happening day to day, and then we cannot make progress at the right speed. At the same time, we must not forget the third force, the unions that are really very strong in Tunisia, and they are blocking a lot, some evolutions, but also they are making a lot of requests. We have, of course, a heavy cost now of the salaries of the public services globally, and this is due to the fact that we've been for the 4 or 5 last years buying passions. I call that we were buying passions by increasing the salaries, etc., and making people waiting at a stage where the investments will come back. The investments went down from 24% of GDP in 2010 to 18% in 2015, which means we are not creating enough jobs. In fact, today we are not improving the situation, so we had to increase and to have the GDP more pulled by the consumptions and the evolution of salaries. So it's working, maybe better than other countries, but it's not completely done.
Are they ever, though? This is the question with some of these transitions and developmental goals. Going forward, though, the largest trading partner for Tunisia is in Europe. So is this where Tunisian sights are set, kind of looking forward? It's more engagement with Europe as opposed to the wider region. You know, Morocco has gone more towards sub-Saharan Africa, is expanding soft power in that direction.
Exactly. It's a strength and also I would say weakness, because we made a trade agreement with Europe in 1996 that paid and a bit. We finished with the revolution, but not due to that. And it's our natural market. You know, Tunis is at 1 hour flight from Rome, 1 hour from Marseille, etc. So our first partner is France, the ex-colony, of course, with 22% of the exchange. Then Italy with 16-17%. Then Germany with 12-13%, and Belgium, etc. So you take 4 or 5 European countries, you'll find more than 70% of our trade exchange, and our economy is really linked to those countries. So as soon as you have, it's not the most growing area in the world, of course. So as soon as you have a crisis in Europe, it's impacting us a lot. But it depends. For example, in the software industry, I was managing a company in Tunisia, software industry, and in fact, when the market is bullish in Europe, they lack engineers, for example, and technicals. So if they had an R&D center in Tunisia, they can have resources, of course. And if the market is bearish in Europe, in fact, they cut the R&D investment unless they have an R&D center, nearshore center in Tunisia. So we have really a natural connection, but we haven't been able to diversify enough. And of course, in this global economy, especially with the skills that we have in Tunisia, etc., we could diversify more. So we started, the relationship with Algeria is more or less sometimes complex, but we have a lot of companies that now are exporting a lot to Algeria. Of course, Libya is a natural market. We are now exploring and developing several also new markets in Europe, not like maybe Morocco did, but Tunisia is starting also to be a player in Africa. But the idea now is really to be more open, and we are going and we are pushing also to make a free trade agreement like Morocco did with the US. It's a very small Tunisia market for the US. It's 0.2% of US GDP. So, but the US company looking to Tunisia as a hub for a wider region could be interesting, and we've been successful to do that with few companies, especially in the technology sector.
technology sector. And you have quite a bit of experience in the technology sector.
Exactly.
In fact, you only entered politics now, what, 5 years ago?
Yeah,
so,
by accident.
Well, I wanted to get the story on this. So for the audience here, many of which are probably interested in bridging public-private partnerships and thinking about the relationship between the private sector and politics, maybe ask a bit of a more personal question about why you decided to move into politics after working in the private sector for so long, what your private sector experience taught you in terms of how to deal in politics, and maybe what advice you would give audience members going forward who want to build bridges in Arab countries.
Yeah, I mean, when the revolution happened, fortunately I was in Tunis because I was traveling a lot, and I came back at that time from Florida. We were organizing the sales kickoff. I was an American group. I sold my company. It was in an American software company, and we were kickoffing the 2011 year in Florida with the US sales. And I came back to Tunis just one day before the last day of the revolution. I was supposed to connect to Asia, in fact, for the Asian kickoff, but the situation, my wife told me, was becoming quite. She was not. I mean. Comfortable, so I decided to come back for a few days, and then the revolution finished, in fact happened on the 14th of January. And on the 15th, with a group of friends, said, I was 45 years old, and I had part of my career, etc. I was not thinking to start immediately, of course, but I said, we need to bring something, we cannot afford, that's an opportunity. We had young people that gave their life for that. So we have some experience, so we can bring something to the country now outside of the business. And we cannot allow really the chance, because we were conscientious that 45 years ago that we have a good chance to come back to the dictator if we don't really build something. And the idea of Afek Tounes maybe started 1 week after that, in fact, by having a political party. And then I went back to work I went to Madrid actually for the European sales kickoff. And on the 27th of January in the morning, I had a call. So the first government after the revolution was getting out. And a friend of mine called me, we are looking for technocrats. What do you think about joining the government? What? Joining the government? What do you mean by technocrat to start?
Exactly. What does this word mean?
So technocrat is a manager that could handle a minister without being politician. Yeah. Oh. How can you be, I'm a politician even within the company now, so how can you managing a ministry without being a politician? And then we had discussion, it was quite surprising, so I called my wife. I had 2 hours to decide. And in fact, in 2 hours, I decided to accept the position of Minister of Transport and Infrastructure. And my boss didn't believe it, of course, because the day before, I was motivating all the sales, etc. And mother, you knew about it, you didn't tell me. That's the case. And in fact, of course, we started as a minister, and I discovered actually my country, in fact, because I left the country when I was 17, after the baccalaureate to France, etc. And then I came back when I was 32 to help Société Générale buying a bank over there, and then starting my own business, etc. And when you are in the business, you develop. And of course, I was exporting, so I was in the planes all the time. I didn't know the country really, and I discovered the country during that period of time. And the party started also very well, so I joined the party after that to prepare the election, etc. And then I said, maybe that's a choice, that's a new life, in fact, new part of life. He doesn't agree so much, and the family was not agreeing in the beginning, but it became a passion with a goal, in fact. Politics take a lot of time. It's a long time process, of course. We need really to work and have, my point of view is politics is a kind of service for the society. So it's a long-term process, of course, but really my country deserves that. It's a kind of patriotic act, in fact, because I can do it. I had the opportunity to have quite a quick development in my career and in my business career. So I can do it, so I afford to do it. It's not easy, because you are attacked, it's not easy at all, but it's interesting. So as an advice, it depends if you are talking about the business or you are talking about any other connection. Talking about the business first, because I suppose that a lot of people here are concerned about being connected. It's important to be connected. So being here and like events like this one, etc., it's really important. And to each time you come back, of course, and it's been my case always, to be connected with the people that are driving businesses there, people that went through the same experience. And also, as soon as, after having an experience, especially in the Western countries, of course, you are developing a network, you are developing a lot of knowledge. It could be good also to have a kind of bridge, in fact, starting something in your country, either in the entrepreneurship or linking in the civil society or anything you do there, but by also keeping your connection in the country where you are living and you are working will bring a lot of value to your country, of course. And if you decide at center stage to go on the other side and being there, you'll be always connected. Don't disconnect between the two worlds. You have the opportunity by being in other countries to having this we say culture, in fact.
Yeah.
So you have having two cultures. It's important to connect them. Then, if you are interested in politics and you are Tunisian, I would be more than
and there
pleased.
happens to be an uprising, a fantastic window of opportunity, then you might be able to follow that path. All right, well, thank you very much. I'd like to open it up to the audience for questions. And I'll be fielding questions, but the glare from the light is quite bad, so if I don't see you right away, don't be offended. You'll be there. I'll get you soon. Please, in the back.
Hi, my name is Wael. I'm Tunisian citizen, and I'm a graduate law student at Duke. I have two questions. Do you hear me? Okay, I have two questions. The first concerning the commercial transactions between Tunisia and the US. Tunisia is very famous for its olive oil production, but more than 60% of that olive oil goes to Spain and Italy, which remarket them and as Spain or Italian, Spanish or Italian olive oils, while in the US only imports 17% of Tunisian olive oil. So why not focus more on this point? My second question is concerning in March, Tunisia agreed to join the OECD BEPS program, the Base Erosion Profit Shifting program. What would that bring to Tunisia in the future, especially on the value chain? Where would it put it on the international value chain? Thank you.
Okay, just to make sure that we had a hard time, I think, hearing. Were you able to hear the questions?
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic.
Please. Okay, so take it one by one. Yeah, for the olive oil, that's a question that was raised even 20 years ago. Why we are just selling our olive oil without having the ability to have brands and to market those brands all over the world. Surprisingly, now we are starting to do that. I was impressed in 1 month ago in Sfax to find a company with a brand called Terra de Lisa that is selling from California to China. In fact, in bottles in Walmart and Carrefour and all the large retailers, of course. But I recall that we are just selling maybe 20 to 25% of the olive oil in bottles. The problem is that the family companies that we have in our structure in the economy in Tunisia have been too small to develop really brands, and especially worldwide brands, because you are competing with serious competitors, of course, especially from Spain and Italy. And this company, in fact, what they did is really they invested, they've been able to leverage money, and then they invested on bringing advisors from the US here for the design of the bottle, the name of the brand, and how they can really reach the US market, which is one, of course, of the most difficult markets, with the right approach, in fact, in terms of bottling and brand name. And they succeeded. But we don't have, so they are exporting for more than 300 million dinars, which means more or less $150 million today, and they are really increasing their part in terms of bottles. So that's the tendency. That's what we will push, of of course, economically speaking, but we'll need some family companies to maybe merge together or cooperate together to bring the right size to be able to address all these markets with of course, the competition with Italy, Spain, and Greece, which is not easy. The second question concerning the OECD, that was not necessarily a choice, in fact, because unfortunately, I was amazed when I discovered that we are at a level we were at a level in terms of GDP at a certain stage, I guess, $4,175 per capita. After that, you reach a certain stage. It was $4,177 with $2. And below that, in fact, I was more interested to be at below that because in all the international, especially credits, you have more donation part if you are below that level. And I asked them, and I wrote a note to take into account the hundreds of thousands of Libyans that are living in Tunisia that will bring the number down to allow me to have better financing. But in terms of programs, it's interesting, especially all what concerns the human development and having all these indicators. The OECD is doing a lot in terms also of the priorities of the United Nations, the 17 priorities that has been put. The OECD is really leading in several countries, and especially the countries like Tunisia, the processes in terms of programs to be able to adapt and to adjust our programs in front of these 17 priorities of the sustainable development from the United Nations. So we have very good relationship with them, and we work together very often.
Fantastic, thank you. Please, in the front.
Thank you for joining us here today. I think Your Excellency would agree that if there's anything we've learned from the Arab Spring, it's that regime change on its own is insufficient. Addressing the underlying causes for people's calls for regime change is of the utmost importance. And I was hoping that you could shed some light on how your government is addressing the aspirations of the Tunisian people, specifically the efforts to halt the exacerbation and ultimately eradication of bribery, corruption, and nepotism in Tunisia, which arguably were the reasons why Mohamed Bouazizi set himself on fire in January of 2010. Thank you.
This corruption, so this corruption question and how the government is basically addressing some of the demands of the people, the original demands that were first voiced and led to the uprisings. And I think this is a tough one because the corruption issue is, once really, it sets in, it's difficult to...
It's difficult, and to be fair, honest, and even transparent, because we made just 1 month ago a session of auto critics internally in the government, and I pointed out the point that we are not doing enough in that area, because really, in fact, the problem today, before the revolution, we had cryonism, and we knew who was managing the corruption and the system. And these people left, but the system expanded. And the problem today is that the state has priorities, in fact. For example, of course, our security forces are more concentrating on the terrorist groups and all what concerns security, etc. We don't have enough people that will control and will apply the law, even if we have a lot of corruption cases where even people were judged, but we are not really delivering and executing, etc., behind it. So my critique was about that we need to give examples. In fact, because all the countries that have been successful in that area, at a certain stage, will put judges plus security forces, etc., in a group that will really target some priorities and then give examples. To have people coming back, because we had less corruption before the revolution, because the regime was authoritarian, and people were fearing about that. And today, in fact, we lost that, but on the other side, we are not punishing enough, because you have, in corruption, you have the people that will get money and the people also that will corrupt. And especially now, we will start in the coming weeks in the port. For example, we have a lot of problems in the ports, of course, which is an area where you have a lot of corruption. Also on the communes and municipalities, we'll ask people, we put cameras, and we ask people really to come and denounce what's happening, and then the police forces as well. You cannot have being in the police forces and get money from the people, etc. So we are not doing enough, but we are ambitious in the 5 coming years really to start and to have also a level of measurement of that. The other thing is that we need to simplify the processes and the laws, especially for the customs, for example. We decided this year, because we have the parallel market, of course, that's a kind of corruption, in fact. The people that are bringing things from outside the country, but they are buying the customs, buying the police, etc., etc. So the idea, bribing, not buying, bribing. So the idea is really to simplify that. We are bringing, for example, the customs to just 2 rates, 0% for any company that would import to produce, 20% for any consumer goods. 2 rates, that's easy. We had around 8 to 10 before. The customs has to translate, etc. And when you bribe, you can get the right rate, etc. So we need also to simplify the laws and to simplify the processes to get down corruption. So that's one. I consider today that's one of the weaknesses. Even for our government, after 8-10 months, we haven't shown really a political voluntarist approach to that topic. So I think and I hope in the coming month we'll show that.
Thank you. Let's see, let's try to get someone from this side. Yes, please.
I'm Céline Benassine. I'm Tunisian citizen living in France. And I think that your title includes international cooperation. I think keeping the link with the Tunisian diaspora around the world is part of international cooperation. So what are your plans to keep Tunisians involved in this transition?
Yeah, that's a really important topic. We are, as you know, we are building our strategic plan, and one of the area about the international cooperation is said that we have a so large diaspora. We have 1.2 million Tunisians that are living abroad with several categories, but we have now people that are really at a high level and important positions in several organizations, whatever, if these organizations are in business or other organizations, and we are not today leveraging that, and we are not asking them to be a kind of ambassadors, in fact, of Tunisia and the countries where they live. So the first point that we are targeting is really to build a who's who of the Tunisians outside and to see how we can build a bridge that could be permanent. Because today, when we see the experiences in several areas, in the banking, for example, the Japanese bonds issue that we had 1 year ago was managed in a Japanese bank in London by a Tunisian lady. And she was really pushing, etc., and defending, and she did the deal. And she did it because she wanted to do it. It was her business, of course, but she wanted to do the deal on Tunisia. I met her in London lately and said, we have bankers all over London, in fact, that are Tunisian. Maybe we can even make a syndicate of the banks in the coming year, because we are going to come back to the market, etc. That's just to give you an example. I was in diaspora, and when I came back, I founded my own company with the idea to help the country and build something in the country. So, and then I brought companies to the country, and several friends did that. So really, I'm quite ambitious on that area, but I want to start with a serious who's who of the Tunisians that are living abroad and that could be and interested to be our ambassadors in several areas, several businesses.
Thank you guys so much. I'd first like to thank Mr. Brahim for this really fantastic conversation covering a lot of issue areas: political stability, economic development, and the future of Tunisia. I'd also like to thank our conference organizers for all of their hard work, and you for your fine questions in tonight's keynote. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Your Excellency, we have a small gift for you.